Before we move to cutting, let's configure our plotter. We're going to be configuring the Graphtec Craft Robo Pro. Now, we're using a 45-degree blade, but optimally you're going to want to use a 60-degree red tip blade for optimal preferences. The 45 will work because it comes standard with your plotter. Before we configure the plotter, let's go over the settings. Now, these are included in your quick start guide, but to quickly review these, we're going to press the condition button right here, and then what's important is setting your force, your speed, and your quality. So hit condition, and then I'm going to tab over. Now your force is going to be set to 24, your speed to 30, and then your quality to 1. Once we have these settings, we're going to go move to a test print. The reason we're going to do a test cut first is because we want to test the blade thickness and the pressure settings. So right now our blade's up to the bottom right hand side of our material, and to do a test, all we have to do is hit test. And as you can see right here, we have our test print or our test cut completed. So an optimal test cut, you don't want to cut through your backing material. So if I weed back here, we shouldn't see any scores in our backing material right here. This is just about perfect. I should be able to fairly easily weed the inside and then also the triangle part of the test cut. Now that our software settings are all set up, we're going to go ahead and go to cut. Apply the cut symbol in Bling software. Coming over to the plotter, as soon as that rips over, it'll start cutting. As you can see, the plotter cuts the design fairly quickly. Now our stencil cut is complete. This count of this particular design is 175 rhinestones. We cut that in just under a minute, so it does cut it fairly quickly. Now let's remove our media. We're going to remove the entire sheet, and then we're going to cut out our stencil design. The reason you want to cut out your design is so you can still use, let's say you have a small stencil over here, you can still use this part of your material in the future. You don't want to get too close. And we'll save the rest of the media, transfer media for future design. Now this is ready to weed. So to weed, we're going to take off transfer material or our stencil material and then apply it actually to the back side of your backing paper. There you go. The goal of the weeding process, once this is applied to the back of the transfer backing, is to actually make sure that the reverse comes out and you're left with the negative, so the rhinestone, actually these will all come out. Hopefully these will all weed correctly and stick on the backing paper, and then my transfer material, stencil material, will actually weed off of it. So I'm going to use the edge of my brush tool to help set these, help these adhere for weeding in a second. So as I start to weed, we're going to go really slow and we're going to use a very tight angle. And we should see inseam of our design adhere to the backing. You don't want to go too fast. If you get too tall of an angle, it won't weed correctly. But this is weeding beautifully. So right here we're losing some, and so we'll just take it back onto the paper, brush it down a little harder, and go back to weeding. Really taking that at a sharp angle and slowing it down a little bit if you have problems with it releasing. Now our design is weeded and we will apply to our backing board. The easiest way to apply the backing board is to put the adhesive side up, take your backing board material and place down, and then secure by putting some pressure down onto the material. Now we have our design and we're ready to apply rhinestones. The rhinestone application process is actually very simple. We have our rhinestone bin, and then we're going to take our bulk amount of rhinestones here and we're going to pour about half the bag in. The way this actually works is as you dip your design into the rhinestones and brush the rhinestones over, the stencil material is actually cut perfectly to fit the rhinestones inside of it, and so the rhinestones rest face up. So as you can see here, I'm brushing these over and my rhinestones are falling magically into place. You don't want to brush too aggressively, because if you do, you'll brush them out of the stencil material. If you have one that settles upside down, just take your finger and get another one back in there the correct way. Make sure that all our rhinestones are in place and have settled correctly. And once we're in action, we'll carefully lift this up and we'll apply our transfer tape. Next, we're going to take our transfer tape and we're going to pick up the rhinestones. So first of all, you have your transfer sheet. This is specialty rhinestone heat transfer material, and we're going to cut out the same area that we actually have our design in. You don't need to use a larger area because, once again, we can use this material for future designs. Sure that's the correct size, right about perfect there. Then we're going to peel off the backing so that we just have a sticky transfer paper. Finally, we're going to carefully, uniformly apply the transfer paper, transfer backing. If it comes down too quickly, it can move the stones. So that's why we're carefully applying this. Now we're going to actually set it. So we should see if any of the stones move. This particular design actually transferred perfectly. Next, we'll lift this off, taking an edge. Once again, carefully lifting it up. If we're too aggressive with it, then we could actually lose some of the stones. We can save this for future use and more designs. Once that's created, it's good for life. Now, if we were directly ready for heat pressing, we could go directly to the press. But if you wanted to save this, you could take this front of the transfer adhesion paper and then just put that to protect the design and ensure that it doesn't move during movement and transfer. So now we have our completed design ready for transfer.